Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone. Hey, I hope you're having a wonderful week and you're ready for some Computer America, because we have a great show planned for you where in the second part of the show, time permitting, we will be doing computer and technology news. Have a lot to talk about, including I think both Google and Apple both gave off some very interesting well, I guess product details would be the best way to describe both, where Google has a gaming platform we're going to talk about. And then, of course, after that, we'll talk about Apple and how they have upgraded their iPads and their iMac Pros. So, I'm sorry, the iMac, not the Pro, the iMac. So, hey, we're going to talk about that and what a $16,000 computer gets you. But in the first hour, or I should say first segment, we are going to have a company, and that company joining us is none other than TaleFlick. And if you haven't heard of TaleFlick, this is going to be a really good show for you, because we're going to hear all about it right from the CEO and founder. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including a link to our guest website, any articles that we do, any videos that we show, and anything that we talk about here today, you can find at computeramerica.com. Make it real easy for you. While you're there, check out the live video portion as well as the show itself. And last but not least, hey, why don't you go ahead and check out some articles. We just put up a review for a light of all things, and it's a very interesting light. It's you should definitely go check that out, and we just put that up yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, there you go. Everyone, hey, why don't we go ahead and get started? So as I said before, our guest today is TaleFlick, and joining us is Mr. Yuri Singer, and he is the CEO and founder. And Yuri, thank you so much for joining us, and hey, I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, why don't we go ahead, get some background, tell us about the company, and then a bit about yourself. What led you to found this? Were you always always kind of in the tech field, TV, movies? What's your background, and what's TaleFlick's background?
So, I'm a TV producer, Hollywood TV producer, television and movie producer for the last 10 years. I produce a few movies that are based on true stories, and then I started to look for original content in order to option some great books. One of them was The King of Oil, for example, that I optioned, and then I brought it to the studios, and they were not interested because it was not a bestseller. And after I got Matt Damon attached, then all the studios were interested, and Universal picked it up. And that was very lucky, because it was on set of one of my movies. I found this book, and because of my personal connections to some CEOs, I was able to talk to them and interest them. The idea of TaleFlick came from that. It was how to find more of these books. Not only by people that I know that tell me, why don't you read that book, or I saw a great story, you should go after that book. But there's so many books out there around the world that have so many good stories that do not reach producers like me, or studios for that matter, because only the bestsellers do. And that's where my expertise got me to open this platform, TaleFlick.
Yeah, and obviously, thanks to the advent of self-publishing and being able to get your story out there to a large audience without all the overhead, it seems like stories to reach thousands or millions of people don't have to go through. You were mentioning trying to get a movie made. I think books have the same, had the same kind of problem where you had to go through different publishers and you really had to, find one that actually believed in you after being turned down a dozen times and get it turned into a book. I mean, there's so many stories out there that are self-published and that kind of thing. What do you think makes a good book? Because obviously the publisher behind it, maybe an author that already has credentials behind him. Like, is it the author? Is it the publisher? What in your mind makes a good story or a good book that you would be interested in, kind of adapting to, into a movie?
So that's a very good question, because at TaleFlick, we are not looking for. We are not even collecting the data about the author, or if he won awards, or if it was a bestseller, or selling numbers. We're looking at the story. So the book even can be not a very well book written, but the story behind it is very good. That's where we think it has a good chance to be adapted into a good movie or a TV series. So we're looking for the story, not actually the book. And to your point, the publishers, they are looking more for well-written books and books that have, beside the stories. What we found in TaleFlick, in the beginning, we thought we will only be catering to content writers, which are book authors, and script writers, which we'll address in a moment. But what we found is that publishers are really interested also not only to upload their books, but to look for manuscripts and unpublished books that are coming to TaleFlick and passing through a curation. So that's a different market that we didn't think we'll have in the beginning, but that is very interesting for publishers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this sounds very interesting. Talk about kind of the process behind it, because I'm sure that you would get people who, I guess, only goal in, after hearing something like TaleFlick, their only goal would be to get a story, kind of made into a movie through your, through your platform. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that you would be inundated with a lot of different ideas and stories. How do you, I guess, maybe walk us through the process of I'm someone who writes a story and I want to submit it to TaleFlick. Talk about the process by which someone would submit an idea to you.
So I will, an idea, we don't accept ideas, we accept only books,
right, okay.
Whether they're published or unpublished. We will be accepting scripts within 2 weeks when we launch our marketplace, which will be the first content marketplace. You can think about Airbnb for original content. It will allow authors to contact scriptwriters that are vetted by TaleFlick to contact the authors, and the authors to contact themselves, or service providers if you want to translate your book, if you want to have a nice cover to your book. But the process on TaleFlick and where we find the content, you can consider it's like a metal detector. So if you have, it detects the needle, but we have to have our curators, human curators, find the needle. So the first algorithm will the machine learning will be the metal detector, if you may, and then it goes and we have to manually, humanly create that. And once we have the good stories sorted, we prepare a one-page. So if you are, I'll take you back. If you're an author and you have a book which you published, you put it on Amazon, some of your friends bought it, some people bought it, or you have a book that 10 years ago was a bestseller, but since then nobody did anything, but it becomes current, we will know if it's what the studios and the producers need. What's the flavor of the month? What are they looking now? It changes so often. But we will categorize all the content that we have. So when a studio or a producer comes into our platform and searches for a specific content, they have it already vetted, and they have our one-pager, which will allow them to know if it's something they're interested or not. So if you're a book author, you upload your book, you fill a questionnaire, and then TaleFlick team, first the algorithm, then the machine learning, then the humans, we read through it and when we decide that that's something to pursue, we have a one-pager and we put it out there to all the studios and producers that can option the property.
So and so this obviously takes kind of takes away the idea that maybe more to your point, that you need a big name attached to it. You need something like this. No, it's just, hey, directors and producers and so on and so forth. They need they need fresh ideas all the time, and you are the marketplace where you can go find a new idea and then work with the person who wrote the book. Work to get it produced. I mean, this seems like a problem that I know that I certainly I don't work in Hollywood or anything like that, so I didn't know this was a problem. You think that this is a better solution to getting, I guess, new ideas to the right people? Like this is the best way, kind of a pseudo marketplace, or I should say an actual marketplace?
So definitely this is a change. The industry, the movie industry has changed since Amazon and Netflix came in, and Hulu, and now Disney and Apple are coming in. There's so much need and thirst for original content, not only by the Hollywood studios, but from networks around the world. Everybody is looking for original content. And the original content is normally found by books. Most 53 of the best making movies were a book adaptation. And real stories. People write books. There is 100 million books that are out there. And the studios and the producers and the content seekers don't get to them. It's very hard for them because they have to manually read each book, and they have the studios. They get only the top bestsellers, or the ones today that have great social media followers. And it doesn't mean that somebody that did not do his marketing, that has a real story, is not something that they would be interested in. But they will never get to it. They're so overwhelmed. The system today is who the friend of a friend, and then you can get the book to them, or you can get a script to them. What we do is, if you may democratize the process, any book has a chance to get in front of the decision makers, the developer makers at studios, and the producers. And I think that it is so timely. This is a problem. Again, I had it as a producer. I know somebody that told me about this book, The King of Oil, and I was lucky to get Matt Damon. And then I optioned The Zero, a bestseller by Jess Walter, and I optioned Don DeLillo. It's very, very hard to go and look and find a book that you like, get the rights, get the option, read it, decide if it's good, and then maybe it's not what the studios are looking for. At TaleFlick, when the book stays in the library, if the book today is maybe not good today for specific studios or producers,
right,
next year it might be. Next year it might be the hottest thing, and everybody will go back to it. So having a searchable library like we do of original content, of good curated stories, we found it to be a very in-demand necessity. My partner, George Berry, worked at Apple for over 7 years, put the iTunes, the movies on the iTunes platform, and then he worked at Netflix, and he saw the overwhelming amount of scripts and content from people that they know, the buyers in Netflix, for example, they know. They're so overwhelmed. They get so much material. It is almost humanly impossible for them to read through it. So if they go to TaleFlick and they need a story about an alien in Kansas at the 1930s, they click that on search and they find similar books that we have. And I think that is saves a lot of time and gives them access to stories that otherwise they wouldn't have.
So obviously from a tech angle, you have already mentioned some of the buzzwords, and that includes things like artificial intelligence and, searchable and, curating these stories, I guess, is the bread and butter of what you're doing. And you mentioned that you have human curators as well, people who will, kind of go back, double check, make sure everything's good to go, work with the author, I'm sure, to make sure that, whatever artificial intelligence that you're using is actually correct. But talk about the AI. I mean, what are they searching for? You mentioned let's take that story about aliens in Kansas in 1930s. Would the AI be able to pick up location, time? Would it pick up this has to do with aliens, romance story? This is a comedy, a horror? I mean, what's some of the categories that you separate these stories into?
So our machine learning is actually learning as we speak. It's every time that we have a curator book coming through, and then it goes through our human curation, and we have 3 tiers of readers. Once it gets to the super reader, which is the last one, and he reads, if it's a pursue or if it's a pass, it goes back to the machine and it learns. So if the algorithm in the beginning allowed us, said no, pursue, based on little data that it gets, because the national learning, the NLP is very hard to. It doesn't detect emotions. It doesn't detect the data points. Is not exactly what we're going for. But if you think about, you have one book that is a bestseller that became a movie, and another book that is similar, it would be very hard for a machine to understand what's the 2 things from data. But if you have 10,000 books or 50,000 books from that, and you know that these kind of books are being more successful as movies or TVs, that we can detect. And that's where we are, that's our metal detector that defines the needles. So we have a lot of needles that are going through the metal detector, but then it's a human that reads it. Right. In the beginning, they read they read some of it, and then they read the beginning, the middle, and the end. And if it passes that, if the story is there, it goes to the super reader that reads. Those are high trained and experienced script writers and people that worked in development in the industry for a long time, and they read it and they curate it, and then it becomes a one-pager. So when you are coming into search, you're the studio or the producer. You can push any genre that you want. You want action, you want rom-com, and then it will give you our top picks that are already curated. So right. As the user cannot go and access the actual books. It can access the books that were curated and that were vetted and chosen through TaleFlick.
I got you. And of course, just poking through your website, anyone out there who'd like to go check it out, TaleFlick, TaleFlick, link at Computer America. But I did want to say that there is an $88 submission, and I have to be honest, that's when you were talking about all the stuff that you're doing behind the scenes with different readers who are actually going back and checking the data. This is not a wholly automated process, but beyond that, you're going to have server costs. You mentioned a lot of the legalese that we're probably going to get into a little bit later. $88 per book, and that gets you a year of it being, kind of, categorized. I guess you could kind of speak to what the $88 kind of goes to, and also that's kind of inexpensive, for a whole year to get your book in front of people who will actually, take the time to notice it. Was the price point important? The sub $100 price point, was that important? And again, what does that go towards?
So that's a very good point. Thank you for raising that. We tried to find an amount that will be not significant for people that spent 2 years and wrote a book, but still will allow us to pay the initial curation costs. We have a great staff. We have over 40 readers. We have people that are going to studios on a daily basis. We have it's a company that's growing by the day. We're doing some panels that are explaining to the publishers why it's good for them, for the agents, why it's good for them to find those books. So we're doing teaching and building a brand that will allow the authors to have a bigger window for them to show their material. The $88 covers the curation cost, but allows them to stay in the library. So again, if this year it wasn't chosen, but 10 or 12 other books were and became movies, then you have the decision if you want to keep it in the library or not. We try to keep the author at the whole are monetizing. If the book becomes a movie or a TV series, we get a percentage from the back end of the production. So we are aiming that it will have, we hope that the people that are optioning the books, the studios and the agents and the producers, will actually produce movies and TV series, because that's where we will gain our success. We are not taking anything from the book author. We're not taking any percentage from the option fee and not from the purchase price. So when there is a producer that's interested in a book, we connect them together and they negotiate, and TaleFlick does not get, we're just a curation platform. We're not a partner on that. If that book is optioned, we facilitate the negotiations between the producer and the author. And then if the book is, if the option is consumed and they're going and purchasing the rights for the book, we also do not gain anything. But if it goes into production, then we do. So we're trying to keep this platform as cost-free for the authors, if possible, and open for publishers and agents as well, which we don't touch their commission. We're not replacing them.
Right. So obviously it seems like your success is dependent on these things actually being made into projects and them being successful themselves, which is, obviously that's the way you want to do it, where you don't want to earn your dime at the front and then you really don't care about what happens to the people who use your platform. No, you do better when everyone does better. Perfect. And also it seems, kind of, again, the model of the internet where maybe take something like PayPal, you are the platform, which, as you said before, facilitates all this. So you get a certain percentage just for, kind of being the facilitator. All that makes sense. And again, the $88 price point, I definitely do like that, because I was worried that you'd be just kind of drowning in kind of slapped together derivative or, let's face it, plagiarized works. And you'd have to really, hire a lot more staff just to get all the plagiarism out of there. But I think with that upfront cost of $88, not too much of a hurdle that it's, anyone who's not serious about it should be able to come up with that kind of money. But it prevents people from just submitting for the sake of submitting. You have to be serious about it. So I definitely did like the $88. So with that being said, okay, so our interview is already almost at the half-hour mark. I will say, as a Hollywood producer yourself, what advice would you give to authors trying to bring their works to movies or television? Because, like you said, there are things like flavor of the month. Are there any tips that you can kind of give that would maybe be more attractive for television, TV, or please go ahead.
I can tell you that this is funny, because the answer is no. Nobody knows. If today it's a romantic comedy, I have a romantic comedy, for example, at Passage Picture, my production company, which is written by a very famous writer and director and Oscar-nominated, that had a huge successful. And I offered it to one of the studios, and they came back to me and they said, "This is too commercial. This is too good. We want something with a different tone." So you never know. Last year, they were looking for romantic comedy that are very good. Today, it's with a different tone. What do you mean by a different tone? Oh, we don't know. It has to have something like Hidden Figures. Okay. So every time it changes, and every time there is a success, everybody wants to make a success. So before now, where a partner of mine on one of the projects, John Krasinski, made The Quiet Place. Mm-hmm. Everybody now is trying to imitate that genre, and everybody's making those kind of movies, which are a hit now. In 2 years, they might not be. When the Rich Asians was a huge success, romantic comedy came back because, that makes... So my advice to author is write the best story you can and just be persistent, because good stories have a place, and if you upload them to TaleFlick, then of course we will find them. And if you don't, you can still try to reach producers and directors and production companies and that's if it's always the merit of the story. If the story is there, people will find it if you are persistent.
Yeah, I went through a very brief phase where I tried to write my own story, and being original is hard. I mean, I found myself really drawing upon everything that I've read up until that point. And by the way, no one will ever read what I wrote because I deleted it with a purpose. But when you know you have something unique, you stand behind it, you flesh it out, and you know that you're doing something special. So very, very good advice. Now, before we let you go, I also wanted to ask a bit more, kind of about the platform and how you think that it's, how you think it's developing. You mentioned that you're bringing on more and more staff all the time. I'm sure that you're realizing that maybe you had an idea that, this was going to be, with the AI, pretty automated. It was going to be, just getting the word out was going to be the hard part. But that a lot of tech companies, we find that that's not the case. There's a lot of, I guess, technical stuff that maybe server maintenance or developing your tools and that kind of thing. How's the platform? Is it everything you dreamed it would be? Is it developing the way that you would like it, or do you see it changing even now?
So I can say we're very young. We launched in August, so we are learning. We just tried it with books, and now that we found out that we can actually curate very well, and that the algorithm is helping us categorize, and we have a team of great readers, and we're expanding on them. We are launching the marketplace in 2 weeks, and this is a first time on national radio that I can tell you that it's going to have some innovation. First of all, there will be a few price points. We are allowing free uploads of books, but that will be only machine learning. So your chances of having your book, it will be uploaded, and it will be curated, but in a very simple way. If you keep the $88, you will have our regular curation with our human curators, which gives you a better chance for a human to read it and to make a one-pager and pitch your project. And we're offering a $2.99 price point for people that want us to read their book, even if they're not chosen. So we can offer a one-pager of what we think, how your book can become, and you can take this one-pager and use it pitching yourself. So we're doing that for the authors. Plus, the authors today were able to upload the book. That's it. They did not have any page of their own. The marketplace would allow them to have a page of their own. They can upload their own pitch if they want to their page. They can go and monitor who looked at their page, etc., etc. There will be a portal for producers, there will be a portal for agents, and there will be a portal for publishers and for screenwriters. So screenwriter for the first time will be able to upload their screens and have the same curations as we have at TaleFlick, and we will be able to offer those as well. We will connect, as I said, books and screenwriters. So if you're a screenwriter and you want to write a treatment for a book author, and you read a book or you see a book on TaleFlick and you want to connect with them, you can go ahead and we will have a messenger service between that they can talk. If you're a publisher and you see a book that got a great review from TaleFlick and a great one-pager, and you know that it's going to be optioned, you want to publish that book, or an agent, and you think that you want to represent this brilliant author or book that you didn't know before. Those are all going to be in the marketplace. So we're looking at, actually the platform is going to be live with the marketplace. That's where we will start our bigger approach to bigger opportunities for everyone.
Right, and this marketplace is going to be available through TaleFlick. So you go to TaleFlick and it'll be right there. Yeah,
it's taleflick.com, and you will just have icons. If you're a publisher, you can get in. Agent, producer, you will have, each one will have his portal, and the author, once he uploads his book, you will have all the instruction of how to upload your own page and how you can put your own art, etc., etc. So plus as I mentioned, there will be service providers. So if you're a company that does videos for books, so anything the book authors will need, and they don't know, they don't have access
and
today.
Yuri, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, Yuri, real quick, but we're about to head off into commercial. Would you mind staying over so we can finish this conversation? Perfect.
Sure, sorry.
So yeah, no problem. Everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, thank you for continuing on. If you're just joining us, check out our conversation. You can hear the entire thing wherever podcasts are heard. It's today's radio show, rebroadcast as a podcast. And yeah, hey, it's been a very interesting conversation so far. As anyone out there who has been an aspiring screenwriter or someone who wants to option their book as a movie, this is something that I can safely say after doing this for, I know that I sound young, but after doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, this is the first time I've ever heard of something like this. And it's been a great pleasure to talk with none other than Mr. Yuri Singer. He is the CEO and founder of TaleFlick. And Yuri, thank you so much for continuing on with us. So right before the break, I did want to, of course, kind of get the idea about this marketplace. You're coming out with it 2 weeks. We'll certainly, probably write something about this and publish it on the website so people can really pay attention to that. But you mentioned that, and actually, let me take a step back. I have had a bit of experience with not so much movies and TV, but with theater and theater and stage and that kind of thing. I got to say, take this. This is, free of cost. Thank you for coming on the show. Something like this would be very helpful for, not just movies and television, but for theater and, getting the rights to something, being able to adapt, a screenplay or a script and being able to, even high school productions, college productions, independent art houses. It's such a legal minefield that you kind of alluded to earlier with, getting a book published like it was in the old days, and before TaleFlick. Any kind of aspiration about just saying that, hey, if we are going to be the platform to connect creatives with the business side of entertainment?
Yes, I think we'll become the biggest library of original content, and when it's vetted and our curation is being accepted, meaning we have results with studios, producers optioning and reading our one pages and trusting our curation. So if you're a trusted library of original content, I feel that the tool that we're building that helps us categorize is not as valuable as our library of great content that we find and select and put as our top picks. So it's funny that you say I also had experience, but on the other side, we adapted a play, Marjorie Prime, that was in Broadway by a Pulitzer finalist writer, and we made it to a movie called Marjorie Prime. That was my last movie that was in Sundance, and when we were doing our one pager, we did get some directors that were interested in adapting some books into the theater. So you were on the nose. It is the need of original content is everywhere, and everywhere around the world. By the way, it's not only the U.S.
Right. Absolutely. And I think I guess one last point I want to make about this is because, just to really highlight the legal aspect of it, you don't accept any rights. Like if someone publishes their story, or at least submits their story to be curated on your site, they're still free to go offer it, on their own. You mentioned that, with the higher tiered option that it's coming with the marketplace, you will let them take the one pager that you supply to others and let them, kind of self publicize it. I mean, you don't, I guess, kind of take the story away from anyone. It's still theirs. You're just helping to spread the word.
That's Ben. This is a great point, and thank you for allowing me to mention that. When you upload a book, you give us the first right of refusal, which is only for the TV and film rights. That means you keep all the rights for your book and the literary rights, and the book is still yours, and you can publish it, and we're not touching anything about that. The rights that we have, the option that we have is for us to be able to offer it to others. Now, if you on your own get to a studio and get an offer, use our one pager or not, or get it, we give you a waiver, and you go and you sell it. We can match it, but we're not in the business of option. TaleFlick is not in the business of optioning and producing it on its own. On the contrary, we are a curation. We're offering everybody the content. So for us, the more good content that we find that is being optioned and being produced, the better.
Makes perfect sense. So I'll go ahead and I'll let you have the last word. If people want to find out more, where can they go? Where's the best place to keep an eye on?
You should go to TaleFlick.com. TaleFlick.com is the site where today authors can look, read, see some articles, and see the top picks. We have there the top picks of the month, so you can see the other books that were chosen and that are being pitched to studios. And if you're an author and you have a book and you want to get it made to a movie or a TV series, go to TaleFlick.com, and we hope that we can facilitate that.
Very, very, so perfect. And everyone, once again, TaleFlick, we'll have a link in the show notes. And Yuri, thank you for your time. Sorry for keeping you long, but again, this is, I don't get to say it often. This is unique. This is something that we haven't heard on the show before. And I want to thank you so much for coming on and explaining this for us.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
All right. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good day.
All right, everyone, and there he goes. So obviously, you can find more at computeramerica.com, TaleFlick.com. If you have a story or a book, and by the way, again, it has to be a published book, or self-published or unpublished. But hey, primarily book form. You can't just have broad strokes. You got to have a book. Then TaleFlick.com. Definitely check that out, and I would definitely be interested in writing something to kind of highlight the need for joining the creatives and the producers side, because so often we hear that, hey, stories only get to producers and directors and screenwriters when you know someone and someone puts a book in front of you. And when you really consider all the books and stories that are being thrown at someone, hey, when are you going to have time to go out and look on your own? So this is something that curation, artificial intelligence, technology, and combining all that to make entertainment as a whole better. Perfect. Right up our alley. And thank you so much for coming on. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and do computer and technology news. Everyone, sit back, relax, and why don't we go ahead and get started? So, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. And everyone, real quick, posture check. Make sure you're sitting up, shoulders back, stomach sucked in. Everyone, watch your posture. It's going to come back to bite you if you don't. Everyone, welcome into the Computer America news segment. And I think today we are going to start with none other than this one. So this is probably one of the biggest stories of the day, and then we're going to jump right into Apple. But this has to do with Google and their new gaming service. We mentioned that there was going to be hints and we could possibly see something gaming related from Google. And here it is. Let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty. So this is an article from The Verge, and you can see it right there. If you're watching on the video portion, follow along. You can see the product images there. But here's the thing. Cloud gaming. If you haven't heard of that, you don't know what cloud gaming is, well, hey, think of any other cloud application. Think about a cloud email server where it's not on your computer, but you can access your email from anywhere. Take Gmail, for instance. If you're on any computer, you have your username, you have your password. It doesn't matter what kind of hardware you're on. Hey, you can see your email. Cloud gaming, very, very similar. Doesn't matter what kind of hardware that you run. It doesn't matter where you access it from. Assuming you have a service, hey, you're going to be able to play games. Although I think Netflix would be a better maybe analogy. But hey, instead of watching movies, you would be playing games. There you go. So here we go from the article. The beauty of cloud gaming is twofold. You can theoretically play any game anywhere that you've got a good enough internet connection, and that's really something you have to highlight, a good internet connection. And two, even if you're playing it on a wimpy smartphone, you can harness the power of the beefy server located in a data center. Like we said, hardware doesn't matter. It's hardware independent. All the processing is done on the server side. So Google would be the one to eat that kind of cost, and you would just get the data, streamed to you. Of course, you may be looking at 40 megabytes per second or 20 megabytes per second of data streaming to you, which would have been impossible. It would have been impossible 10 years ago. But internet connections have come up to a point where 100 megabits per second in a home setting is not unreasonable. And a lot of people out there have access to a gigabyte or I should say a gigabit internet connection or more. I mean, it's not common, but it's out there. And hey, this is the technology that you need to make this happen. Now, here we go. Google has just announced its Stadia. I'm going to go Stadia. I'll admit I've not watched the keynote. But Stadia, Stadia, cloud gaming service. And here we go. It says it may have struck a balance between power and price by partnering with AMD for a new custom piece of silicon. According to Google, each Stadia, and hey, we're going to call it Stadia. Each Stadia server will contain a custom x86 AMD processor running at 2.7 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, and most importantly, a GPU capable of 10.7 teraflops of performance. That's right, they're running Linux, not Windows. And Google wasted no time in comparing that teraflop number against the Xbox and the PlayStation, where Xbox One X is a mere 6.0 teraflops and the PS4 Pro are around 4.2. And again, here's the thing. Google, by doing this, they are going to have, the hardware is going to be on Google. And there is going to be a savings that you can get here where Google is going to be the one to eat the initial cost. They are going to have all the hardware on their servers. You don't have to maintain the hardware at all. All you have to do is have an internet connection, and through bulk buying, through a single facility housing all of this hardware, you can manage them and maintain them much cheaper than you would selling a standalone PS4 or Xbox. It's just going to be better. But again, highly reliant on an internet connection. Very important. Now, of course, the comparison conveniently omits that today's top PC gaming graphics cards can easily top 10.7 teraflops because an Xbox One X and a PlayStation 4, they're the best console out there, but they are not the best. They're not the best when it comes to gaming hardware. That would be a PC, and a PC would be much, much better than a console. But they're comparing it to that. In fact, AMD already had a GPU around 10.5 teraflops of single precision compute, and the same 56 compute units, the RX Vega 56, which launched as a solid $400 graphics card in 2017. So obviously, Google is this is not the most impressive hardware that they're showing off, but again, it's that you don't have to buy it. All you have to do is subscribe. Now, of course, they mention some of the things that they mention here. Google says that at launch, you'll be able to play 4K resolution, 60 frames per second with both HDR and surround sound, while simultaneously sharing a 4K 60 FPS stream of your game live to your YouTube followers. And Google says it will upgrade to 8K and 120 frames per second gameplay in the future, though it's not clear how far off in the future they're talking about. I will say, just from personal point of view, 8K, 120 frames per second, I'm betting that's going to be in 2 to 3 years, but they're just making their roadmap kind of clear. So there you have it. Yeah, so with that being said, we can go ahead and continue on here. They're saying that, mind you, today's top PCs have a problem with that, blah, blah, blah. Let's skip down a bit. What we do know is that Google will have those servers set up at 7,500 different locations around the world, which could help ensure that players don't lag when they're playing this. So that is another concern. If Google was housing these in a single location, let's say they're housing them in Washington State or somewhere where Google is, let's say California. If they're hosting them in California and you would like to use the service in Europe, you're looking at, thanks to the speed of light and the limitations on transmission speeds, you're looking at a latency of about 200 to 300 milliseconds. And that's on top of any other any other servers you have to connect to, if it's an online game, so on and so forth. That kind of latency makes a lot of games unplayable. So, things like first-person shooters or anything reaction-based would make it unplayable. By having servers in 7,500 locations, and I think Google is pretty darn good when it comes to maintaining an internet infrastructure, then, hey, Google will be sure to cut down on latency as much as possible. Obviously, they haven't really spelled out just how much latency there will be, but hey, this is Google's biggest move into the gaming ecosystem. Definitely worth paying attention to. So there's that one. Let's go ahead, just flip right on over, keeping the hardware to the hardware, and Apple. Apple's been busy for a week. This is an article from Engadget, Dana Wallman, talking about Apple's 2019 iMac gets some fresh chips, including an 8-core CPU. Pretty important. 8-core is, I think, pretty standard for high-end computers. So it's good that Apple finally has. I think they had 6-core, but now they have 8-core. Now, it's shaping up to be a busy week for Apple. Yesterday, the company unveiled 2 updated iPads, and today, it announced that the iMac is getting a minor refresh. Going forward, the 21.5-inch model. And again, for anyone out there who's not a huge Apple fan, the iMac is the standalone unit. It's the big screen, just sit on your desktop. It's a really cool piece of engineering, and a lot of people actually buy them and refurbish them and put different innards in them. But the aesthetic of the iMac is really standalone. So there you go. The 21.5-inch model will be offered with the 8th Gen 6-core Intel i5 CPU at the high end, plus 4 gigs AMD Radeon Pro Vega 20 graphics, so a Pro Vega 20 GPU. The top tier SKU will also be an 8th Gen 6-core i7 processor as a configure to order option. So like we said, the 21.5-inch as opposed to the 27-inch, the lower end of the two high-end models, will get you a 6-core CPU. Pretty good. Not bad. Yeah, you're definitely going to want an 8-core, but hey, an i5, that's nothing to sneeze at. Now, of course, the 27-inch model, which is the one that you have to sell your firstborn, your left leg, and the family dog for, the 27-inch model will be offered with a minimum 6 cores, upgrade to an 8th Gen Core i7 chip or a 9th Gen Core i9 chip. So 9th Gen Core i9, that'll be an i9 9900K, I think is what they're up to. So that's probably what they're talking about. Probably not a K though, but I digress. A first for this product line, the 27-incher also has an 8GB Radeon Pro Vega 48 GPU, which is cool, 7.3 teraflops of graphics performance. Thanks to our previous article, we know that's pretty good. Not amazing, but hey, Mac is not really your gaming, it's more your productive computer. There you go. All the other silicon is tucked inside the machine. Nothing else changes, although I did hear reports of RAM, where I think it's with the iMac 27-inch option, you can get up to 256 gigabytes of RAM. You heard that right. Okay, so for a lot of people out there who haven't maybe upgraded their computers in a couple years, you are probably running on the low end 4 or 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM. High end, you're looking at 32, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and really not a lot of consumer computers have a need, and at the same time, they don't have a reason to have 256 gigabytes of RAM, but Apple is throwing it in. Now, of course, the controversy there is that you are paying Apple prices, and it is error correcting code or something like that, ECC memory, where it will be more redundant and it will be more stable. So everything, if you're trying to render something, or if you're trying to do something in the arts, you want to make sure that nothing, kind of gets corrupted, or, everything goes smoothly. Then, hey, 256 gigabytes of error correcting RAM, you are going to be golden. You're going to be able to render videos, music, art. Hey, it's going to be really, really good. But you are going to be paying about $5,000 for the upgrade. Yeah, that much money. $5,000 just for more RAM. It's something crazy. So obviously the 21.5-inch starts at about $1,100, tops out at about $1,500 and of course you can have add-ons. The 27-inch starts at about $1,800, and I think the fully decked out 27-inch iMac can drop you a good, memory serves, I want to say about $16,000. It's like $15,992 or something ridiculous. So yeah, minor upgrades from Apple. Very nice to see that they aren't completely dropping their PC lineup, or I should not say PC, their Mac lineup. There's been worry in the past that they haven't been paying as much attention, and admittedly, this is not a completely different look for Apple. This is just something kind of stay the course. So there you go. Everyone, let's go ahead and continue on. We have time for one, maybe two more if we are lucky. Let's go ahead and discuss. Okay, let's go ahead and discuss. No, I don't want to bring everyone down. Okay, New Jersey. Let's see what bee is in New Jersey's bonnet. Here we go. New Jersey becomes the second state, numero dos, second state to ban cashless shops and restaurants. Cashless, without cash, sans cash, no cash, stores and restaurants. Where on Monday, New Jersey Governor, and by the way, article Ars Technica, Monday, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy signed a bill banning cashless retail stores and restaurants in the Garden State. Murphy's signature makes New Jersey the second state in the U.S. behind Massachusetts, who banned them in 1978. Well, you can't say this is a wave if the first one happened in 1978 and the second one happened in 2019, a mere 41 years later. But yeah, let's see why. New Jersey's move follows that of Philadelphia, which banned cashless stores earlier this month. Philadelphia's legislation was a reaction to a growing number of stores that only accept credit cards or require customers to pay with an app, like Amazon's new Amazon Go stores. So I guess all these retail locations and restaurants have to accept cash. Ars contacted Amazon for comments, but the company did not respond. Obviously, this is pretty new legislation, and Amazon wouldn't have anything to say about it. But they make exceptions for parking garages and car rental companies where credit card is required for upfront incidentals. Although, seems like if you start throwing out exceptions, then it's not a very well thought out law, but I digress. There is also an exception carved out for some airport stores, according to NewJersey.com. Proponents of cashless stores say that they prevent theft, speed up customer convenience, and are generally more modern. Opponents say that cashless stores unfairly disadvantage people who don't or can't have credit cards and who don't want the fees associated with prepaid debit cards. I gotta say that problem right there. There are a lot of solutions that take little to no fees off the top for using them. We don't have a full write-up, actually, idea for an article, but things like PayPal and other, kind of online wallets are very easy to get and have very low to no fees. So, anyways, according to NJ.com, State Assembly Paul Moriarty said in a statement that many people don't have access to consumer credit, and any effort by retail establishments to ban the use of cash is discriminatory towards those people. Anywho, the fine, $2,500, $5,000 for a second offense. Fines will climb from there, and yeah. So it's not banning cashless stores. It's just any store that would hopefully, be quote unquote be a cashless store, such as an Amazon Go, which would associate you, use facial tracking, and be able to say that, hey, Ben just picked up an iced tea, so charge the iced tea to Ben's account. Those kinds of stores will at some point always have to accept cash. There you go. So the feature's not going away. Stores will still come to those locations. It's just there's going to be, in places that have this kind of legislation on the books, you will have a bit more of a hassle, doing it. Well, and of course the hassle will be on Amazon and these other establishments to deal with. But I don't think this is the worst thing in the world. This is not a ban on cashless stores. It's like in addition to cashless stores. So with that being said, some of the articles that we didn't get to that you should definitely check out. MoviePass is offering its original $10 unlimited plan for an unlimited time. This is, of course, if you pay upfront and pay for a year's worth of unlimited movies, then you can get the subscription movie model. Probably not a good investment. Also, a story about Ultima Thule. Ultima Thule is unlike anything we've seen in the solar system, and it's this weird, bulbous, rocky thing in the Kuiper Belt. It's a donut shape, and everyone, you should definitely check that out. So let's turn the music down just a little bit. Everyone, I want to thank our guests one more time for coming on the show. This has been a lot of fun, and if you want to check them out, of course, you can go ahead over to computeramerica.com and you can find a link over to TaleFlick. And again, thank you to Yuri for coming on the show and talking all about it. Everyone else out there, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. It's been a lot of fun. And be sure to tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow we should have none other than regular correspondent, and I say regular, but he's a great guy, Dariush Darakhshani, all about graphics. And we're going to be talking NVIDIA, AMD, and more. Until then, everyone, have a great day. Thank you. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.